fish out of there again. 5 pounds, 4 ounces on a smallmouth. All right, I'll call. Today, our Bassmasters TV cameras are covering the $190,000 Oklahoma Invitational on Lake Texoma. This huge reservoir on the Oklahoma-Texas border sprawls over 89,000 acres with 580 miles of shoreline. But bass tournament anglers are saying it's too small. Small in that it fishes small in the fall with the lake level down.
Pressure's a real big factor. It's time of the year, and with the lake down, it's fishing extremely small. You can look around right here and see 10 boats, count 10 boats right now, and they're all keying on the same type of structure. The guy who wins this tournament is going to either find those smallmouth, or he's going to have to do a little better job than the other guys on the same water.
Smallmouth. You heard Kevin Van Dam right. Texoma is known nationwide for its striped bass fishing, but now it boasts a booming smallmouth bass fishery. At any BASS tournament weigh-in, the big bass honors, more often than not, go to a lucky smallmouth angler. Smallmouth fingerlings were stocked here in 1981. Just 7 years later, Tommy Hitchcock of the Little Dixie Bassmasters broke the Oklahoma state record with a 6-pound, 5-ounce bronzeback. And Tommy's big smallmouth was just the beginning. The Oklahoma state record smallmouth has been broken 3 more times, all on Texoma. Currently, it stands at 6 pounds, 14.7 ounces. Fishing pressure by other contestants isn't the only concern. On Texoma, more likely than not, the wind will be a factor.
As tough as it is, and wind blowing like it is, you lose a lot of time. You can't really get around the lake and do the things you like to do. It takes you so much time to get from one area to another.
The wind can also be a factor in catching bass, as Ron Sheffield, who won the 1991 Oklahoma Invitational, tells us.
What I've seemed to find out is that, with this wind getting up, it keeps these shad from coming to the surface, and the pattern I've got on has been to stay with the calmest possible water I can find, because then the shad will come to the surface, and these fish will come up and feed on them more actively. But if the shad don't come up, these fish stay down.
Tough tournament fishing conditions, but some pro usually figures out how to catch them.
And the fish were relating to it, and it's something I'd never seen before, and it's an unusual piece of, I don't know if anybody's ever fished a piece of bass structure of that nature.
Jay Ellis's structure spot is certainly unique. Stay tuned and find out why. I'm Bob Cobb. The Bassmasters will be right back with first round action in the Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational from Lake Texoma, celebrating the 50th anniversary of the Denison Dam.
Day 1, checkout for the $190,000 Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational. A 3-day black bass tournament on Lake Texoma, the big Oklahoma-Texas border impoundment known more for its striped bass fishing. But in this Bass Angler Sportsman Society tournament, only black bass are weighed in, largemouth, smallmouth, or spotted. The 325 competitors can weigh in 5 bass daily. A keeper fish must measure at least 14 inches. At BASS tournaments, the anglers are paired, 2 contestants to the boat. Each flight has a designated check-in time, and checking in on time is important. The penalty is costly. 1 pound deducted from the daily weight for each minute of tardiness. In a tough tournament like the 3 practice days have indicated, every pound, if not ounces, is a prize to hang on to. The time is early November. The weather outlook is not encouraging. Another cold front is headed this way. Winds 25 to 30 miles per hour are predicted. Water temperatures dropped 12 to 15 degrees the last 2 weeks. Now the surface temperature is in the mid-50s. But this morning, the bad news is in the forecast. Texoma is like a placid pond. No wind, still as a picture. There's no problem getting anywhere to fish the 2 major tributary arms, the larger Red River along the Oklahoma-Texas border, or the Washita River in Oklahoma. There are also numerous creeks. Names like Soldier Creek, Big Mineral, and Mill Creek are good areas in the Red River arm. From tournament headquarters at Willow Springs Marina, head north up the Ouachita and Glasses Creek and Little Glasses, Newberry or Johnson Creek, prime areas for black bass. With the calm conditions, Jim Morton, an Edmond, Oklahoma pro, is casting a topwater lure. Jim's a strong favorite here. He won the 1992 Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational on Grand Lake, but this bass won't make the trip to the weigh-in. Just boating a 14-inch keeper bass, much less a 5-bass daily limit, may be a challenge. Doug Garrett of Cabot, Arkansas, and partner Charles Reagan of Thornton, Texas, are getting strikes, but they're having to sort through several fish to land a keeper largemouth. Garrett's figured out the right lure, a soft plastic tube bait, fished slowly on a 1/4-ounce lead head. Bait fish are active along the creek channel ledge, and Doug is swimming the lure off the bottom. Jim Morton sticking with his topwater lure, and maybe he's got a keeper. Nope. Texas pro Jay Yellis, winner of the recent Bassmaster BP Top 100 on the Potomac River in Maryland, has put together a fish-catching pattern.
Oh, I'm just fishing medium running crankbaits, a storm flatwort, and been throwing a couple other baits too, kind of mixing it up, Tennessee shad pattern. And the fish are back in here on these docks. They just live in here, and they, but you can't catch them very good off the bottom on a worm or a jig. The bass are just kind of swimming around, suspended under the docks, eating shad. So I'm catching all mine on crankbaits. My bait's running about 6 feet deep, over 15, 20 feet of water.
At the day one weigh-in, there's not much for the crowd to applaud till Jay Yellis comes to the scales.
5 bass limit, first limit of the day. Man, you broke the code.
Yeah, hey, I only had 5 fish today, so I just barely made it.
All right, look at this. We've got a new leader in the tournament, Jay Yellis of Texas with 11 pounds, 13 ounces.
5 bass limits are few and far between, and fewer weights in double digits. But here's an eye catcher.
Look at this, folks. We've got a new leader in the tournament. George Cochran of Arkansas is taking the lead with 15.5. I want to see your big fish. 15.5, a new leader. He's jumped out in front. George is former world champion. Nobody's approached anything like that today. Have you got something going?
I think so. I'm using a different kind of lures than most of them are using, and I think that that's the key. And I caught 2 limits today and then only fished a half a day where I thought I could catch any.
George Cochran's 15 pounds 5 ounces takes almost a 2-pound lead over Rick Pierce of Arkansas in the day one standings. Kevin Van Dam of Michigan ranks 3rd, followed by Jay Yellis and Robert Tucker of Texas. Yellis earns a $1,000 bonus for the day's big bass, a 5-pound 3-ounce largemouth. Among the 325 anglers, only 27 5-bass limits are scored.
Here we go.
Stay tuned. The Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational will continue in a moment with one of the most unusual bass-catching patterns in BASS Tournament Trail history. Don't go away. Day 2. Anglers in the Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational are keeping their fingers crossed. Maybe Texoma will be a gentle giant again today. As the BASS tournament anglers get ready to check out, striper guides and their parties are headed out of Willow Springs Resort. Striper fishing is the most popular recreational angling on Texoma. More than 150 striper guides work out of the numerous marinas. The lake record, caught in 1984, weighed 35 pounds 2 ounces. The striper creel limit is generous, 15 per day, with one fish over a 20-inch size limit. Normally, the success rate is high. Striper anglers use a variety of lures depending on the season, but drifting live gizzard shad is the most used technique by guides and their parties. And the live bait used by the guides is a key here to one of the more unique BASS tournament fish catching patterns yet.
That's kind of a unique pattern. I've caught a couple fish off this spot. It's a fish cleaning station. This lake's got over 100 striper guides, and probably 20 of them work out of this marina, and every day about 10 o'clock or noon they'll come in and clean their fish here, and they use live shad for bait. and they throw all their extra bait overboard, and the bass, they just wait here in ambush.
Tournament leader George Cochran is fishing a backwater area off the Ouachita River, and his lure presentation with a crankbait is out of the ordinary.
And it seemed like that they wanted a bait that was moving slow, like this big crankbait. And it seemed like in the middle of the day when the shad got active, the fish moved up around them tops. But if you threw a spinnerbait, I guess they've seen so many spinnerbaits, they wouldn't hit the spinnerbait, they'd swirl at it. But I could take this big crankbait, and I could go real slow through those tops, just wobbling it real slow. But it was up in the day before I caught any fish. The later in the day, the better it got.
Today, the bass aren't reacting to George's fake bait fish, but Jay Yellis is working on another 5 bass limit.
That's a keeper there. Come here, come here, come here. That'll keep.
And Kevin Van Dam, in 3rd place yesterday, lands a keeper-sized bass. He's fishing the Ouachita area. If it measures 14 inches, Kevin's got 3 bass in the well. Evidently, even fewer 5 bass limits are being scored today. But if Bobby Wilson of Manning, South Carolina gets this bass in the boat, he's filled his quota. Bobby started today in 20th place. He's got a shot at moving into the top 10. Day 2 weigh-in, and the standings are going to change. Yesterday's leader, George Cochran, checks in with only 2 bass. That cracks the door open for Jay Yellis. His 5 bass creel weighs only 8 pounds 2 ounces, but puts Jay into the driver's seat. However, Ron Sheffield suddenly looms quite large in the rearview mirror. Sheffield jumps from 10th place into the runner-up spot. He has 8 pounds 8 ounces with only 4 keepers. But here's a 5 bass limit that's going to push the scales down. This may be the heaviest catch of the tournament.
4-time world champion Rick Clunn of Texas had 3 pounds 5 ounces yesterday. Today, look at this, folks, one of the biggest strings of the tournament, the biggest string of the tournament. 16 pounds and 13 ounces for Rick Clunn of Texas. Hold up a couple of fish, Rick. You never count this man out. He's 4 times the Bassmasters Classic world champion.
I came in 15 minutes late, so I'm going to lose all that weight. And it was my fault. It's probably the biggest error I've ever made in my career, and I hate to do it on a day. Why don't you do that on days you don't catch nothing, you know, instead of catching 16 pounds? But anyway, if you don't mind, I'm going to get off here and go cry someplace over here behind the deal.
A tough break in a tough tournament. Rick Clunn would have gained the lead, but here's how the Day 2 standings shake out. Jay Ellis on top with 19 pounds 15 ounces, a thin 6-ounce margin over Ron Sheffield. Yesterday's leader George Cochran slips to 3rd, but it's any angler's tournament to win. Only 4 pounds separate the top 10. Don't go away. The Bassmasters are coming right back with final round action in the $190,000 Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational on Lake Texoma. Day 3, final round of the Bassmaster Oklahoma Invitational. And Lake Texoma is getting into character. Mean, nasty, and downright unruly. Strong 30-mile-per-hour winds churn the big lake into a sea of whitecaps. Ron Sheffield in 2nd place, only 6 ounces behind, weathers the rough ride up the Red River to Mill Creek. He's fishing the marina boat docks with a spinnerbait. The area behind the docks is the only place Sheffield can escape the wind. Calm water is important to his fishing pattern.
Where you can find the calm water, you'll find shad activity and little sand bass, whites, first one they know they're working in them. Well, the largemouth are following them shad around. What happens when you get this wind, like we've got the last 2 days, is it scatters those shad, and those shad don't seem to come up to the surface quite as well. And the bass, in turn, don't come up feeding on them.
Tournament leader Jay Yellis has no wind worries or bothers. His fishing spot inside the Soldier Creek Marina is well protected. The shad in the pocket past the marina fish cleaning area are active and the bass are striking. However, Jay may have some pressure. His paired partner for the day, Guy Aker Jr. of North Carolina, is in 12th place. Guy's only 4 pounds, 4 ounces behind. Ron Sheffield has hooked another bass.
Not going to keep.
Jay Yellis is sticking with his crankbait pattern around the docks.
That one might measure, I don't know.
And Ron Sheffield is working the leeward side of a marina dock.
There's one.
Scoring 3 straight limits in this tournament will be an angling achievement. Jay Yellis is one of only 2 contestants who still has that possibility. Only 5.5 pounds separated the top 22 anglers this morning. The Day 3 final weigh-in is gonna be a nail-biter.
And here's George Cochran. George is in 3rd place. He was leading the tournament the first day. He's got 4 bass today. He has 18 pounds, 14 ounces, and right now he's going to add to that 6 pounds and 11 ounces. George, that looks pretty good. That might do it.
Well, I needed one more good fish probably to win the tournament. I heard that Jay had 3, so. But yesterday I only lost 1 fish in the 3 days, and it was about a 4-pounder. But I caught all my fish on 2 kind of crankbaits, great big. They don't even make it anymore. A big end. It's a real shallow running crankbait and a Balsa 3. And what I was doing, I was throwing in treetops and stumps, and I was reeling it real slow where it waddled just underneath the water, and they'd come up and get it. If you reeled it real fast, they wouldn't get it. The water was too cold.
Ron Sheffield started this morning in 2nd place, but he only manages 2 keepers.
He needed 6 pounds to tie, and he got 4.11. Bud, you just came so close today. Did you have another keeper on that might have done it?
No, I hadn't lost a keeper this whole week. Not that I've visibly seen strike or have hooked. I had a few fish short strike, a Stanley spinnerbait, but the wind today really destroyed my pattern.
And there's one real nervous angler left to weigh in.
Yesterday's leader is Jay Yellis of Texas. Jay's got 3 keepers, and he needs 5 pounds, 11 ounces to win the tournament, or at least take the lead and guarantee the lead. 5 pounds, 11 ounces, 5 pounds even. Oh, Jay.
An unusual situation, but not an uncommon BASS tournament outcome. When the fishing is tough, George Cochran is often the angler to beat.
And he formed like a true champion. George, congratulations.
Thank you, Bob. It sure feels good.
Slow but sure. George Cochran, with 25 pounds, 9 ounces, pockets the $35,000 winner's share. Guy Aker Sr. finishes only 7 ounces behind, followed by Jay Yellis and Ron Sheffield. Right now, it's time for the Pros Pointer, the how-to section of the Bassmasters. Brought to you by Wrangler, the most comfortable jeans known to man.
The water temperature is like 65 degrees when we first got here. The temperature dropped 10 degrees. And I learned a few years back fishing in Arkansas and some of our lakes, the first time the water temperature drops like 10 degrees, the fish are still shallow. They hadn't moved real deep. But the retrieve of the lure was so critical, you had to make the presentation with the crankbait where it was just barely under the surface, wobbling, coming by the cover, and they'd come up and get it. If you reeled the bait underneath the water very fast, they wouldn't touch it. So I tried to match my crankbait just like the bait fish that were in the area. They were moving real slow, and that's how I caught the fish. So I'd throw back in the thick cover just like you would a spinnerbait, and I'd reel that crankbait where it just wobbled right across the top, and it looked like an injured shad, and that's how I caught all those big fish the first day. I'm holding my rod straight up, almost 11, 12 o'clock, and I'm reeling the bait real slow where it's making a wake like that right there. If I reeled the crankbait very fast, they wouldn't touch it. but that slow wobble retrieve right on the surface, that's how I caught every one of them.
George Cochran, a true champion. When the going's tough, count on George's proven experience to figure out a winning pattern. Next week, our Bassmasters TV cameras follow the pros back to Lake Murray in South Carolina for the $474,000 Bassmaster BP Megabucks fish-off. Big bucks and big bass are on the line as the top 10 finalists go rod to rod on a 10-hole fishing course. For the Bassmasters, I'm Bob Cobb. Join us right here next Sunday for all the Megabucks action.
The Bassmasters has been brought to you by Evinrude Outboards, leading the way. Ranger Boats, still building legends one at a time. Abu Garcia, the world's finest fishing tackle. Stren Fishing Lines, a fine line between sport and science. Chevy Trucks, the most dependable, longest-lasting trucks on the road. Motor Guide, the choice of serious fishermen. Parts Plus, America's family of auto parts stores. Bass Pro Shops, world's largest supplier of premium tackle. Lunker Lure, manufacturer of the original buzzbait. Wrangler, the official jeans and shirts of the Bassmaster Tournament Trail. And the Bass Angler Sportsman Society, the world's largest bass fishing organization.